Today we're making a recipe that's a favorite in my household and among many of my clients. You should only eat salads that taste this good. This kale Cobb salad is packed with some of your Cobb salad favorites like bacon, eggs, and tomatoes, and a few additions to make it more anti-inflammatory, including avocado and a turmeric spiced honey mustard dressing. A few notes about this recipe. We're getting protein from hard-boiled eggs and from chicken thighs, which is why you only see 8 ounces of chicken thighs in this recipe. We can cut the serving of chicken down when we add other sources of protein, like the eggs. I've also made this with crispy chickpeas, which are a great addition if beans work for you. This is a slightly more affordable version of your favorite Cobb salad. This anti-inflammatory kale Cobb salad comes to about $13.12, which is $3.28 per serving. So the first thing we're going to do is make the dressing, because we're also going to use some of that dressing as a marinade for our chicken. The dressing is the absolute star of this dish. For the dressing, combine the ingredients in a large bowl or in a jar. You want your sweetener. I was out of honey this time, so I used maple syrup and it was just as good. 2 tablespoons of mustard. I like a whole grain or spicy brown mustard here. 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, which is the juice from about 1 small lemon. 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper, 1/4 cup of olive oil, and 1/4 teaspoon of ground turmeric. The turmeric is delicious in this recipe. It gives it a really nice bright color, and you get some of the added anti-inflammatory benefits of turmeric. The anti-inflammatory compound, curcumin, is actually further activated and made more bioavailable by a compound called pepperine in black pepper. So whenever you're using turmeric, if you want to get the full benefits, it's great to pair it with black pepper. Additionally, these compounds are fat soluble, so make sure you've got a serving of fat. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about some of the anti-inflammatory foods in this recipe, you can find that information in the blog post, which is linked in the description box below. We're going to whisk that all together, or alternatively, you can combine it in a jar and shake it really well until it's emulsified. From here, we're going to remove about 2 tablespoons of the dressing and add it to a bowl with the chicken thighs. I like to use boneless, skinless, and that's going to come to about 2 to 3 small-ish chicken thighs. I do like to season the chicken with a little extra salt, so you can add that at this stage or just before cooking. Combine the dressing with the chicken thighs and make sure they're coated all around. They don't need to be fully submerged, but you do want them to be fully coated. You can go ahead and set that aside, and by the time we're done preparing all the other ingredients, it will be properly marinated. You can also marinate this chicken ahead of time and leave it overnight. Next up, let's prepare the hard-boiled eggs. This is the method I've settled on that makes it easiest to peel the shells. We're simply going to bring a pot of water to boil. You definitely want it to be large enough that all of your eggs can be submerged, and then gently lower your eggs into the boiling water. You want to reduce the temperature to a simmer and let them cook covered for about 8 more minutes. Your total cooking time is going to be somewhere between 10 and 12 minutes, depending on how well you like your eggs done. While the eggs are cooking, I'm going to prepare an ice bath, or in my case, just very cold fridge water. We don't have a freezer, so we don't have any ice, so I'm just adding some water to a container and putting it in the very back of my fridge so that it can get as cold as possible in the 10 or 15 minutes that it takes for me to prepare the eggs. When it's time to peel the eggs, I move them over to the sink and I crack each egg all around all sides until it looks like it has a lot of craters in it, like this. Then I just gently peel the shell off using the cold water to help. And look at that, that is a perfect 10-minute egg. If you have more questions about preparing hard-boiled eggs, I recommend the Serious Eats article that breaks down all the different ways to get perfect hard-boiled eggs. I'll link that in the description box below. You can chop up the eggs however you like for this recipe. For presentation purposes, I'm just cutting these eggs long ways into 4 equal quarters. For the salad, we have 3 main components in the produce category. We have our kale, our grape tomatoes, and our avocado. For the kale, and with any other greens, if you really want them to be clean, the best way to do this is to submerge them completely in clean water. I'm doing this in a sink that I've scrubbed out so I know it's very clean. And then you want to agitate the kale a little bit, and then you want to lift it out of the water and set it in a colander to drain. In my opinion, this is the absolute best way to remove any dirt or bugs like this little guy that was hiding in our kale. Don't worry, we took him to a new home outside. Now it's time to strip the kale. Basically, you're just going to hold the stem of the kale in one hand, and then you're going to pinch the top leaves and quickly pull your hands apart so that you can strip the leaves off of the stem. This is my favorite method. It works better than any other method, and it's much faster. Next, we're going to finely chop up this kale. I just make it into sort of these small ribbons and then cut those ribbons in 2 or 3 portions. And now, the most important part. You must massage your kale. I absolutely prefer the texture, flavor, and digestibility of massaged kale. All you have to do is add it to a large bowl, or in this case, a large pot, because we don't have a large bowl. Drizzle it with some of your dressing or with olive oil and salt, and massage it for about 30 seconds. That's it. You'll see that the kale will reduce in size by somewhere between 25 and 50%, and each piece will be coated with a little bit of dressing or seasoning. For the tomatoes, we're just going to give them a quick rinse, and then we're going to slice them in half lengthwise. For the avocado, I'm just going to slice the avocado into cubes directly in the avocado half. You can add a little bit of lemon juice to the top of the avocado to help further prevent browning. Next up, let's prepare the bacon. You can just cook this on the stove to your desired doneness. Typically, if I'm cooking bacon for a salad, I like to make it crispy. Remove your bacon to a paper towel lined plate and set that aside to let it cool. Once cool, you can just chop it up and set it aside. You can drain most of the bacon grease, but leave about a tablespoon in there because we're going to use that to cook the chicken. You certainly don't have to use the bacon grease to cook the chicken. I just use it because it saves us a little bit of money, and if you're getting better quality bacon, I don't worry about the fat that much. Otherwise, you can just use whatever oil you prefer. When it's time to cook the chicken, we're actually just going to place it directly in the hot pan and let it cook for about 5 minutes or so until it starts to develop a nice brown on the bottom, and then we're going to flip it over. If you find that you have hot spots in your oven or in your pan, the thicker end of the chicken thigh will take longer to cook, so I like to put that side of the thigh closer to the center as I'm doing here. With chicken and most meats, I do recommend checking the temperature with a meat thermometer. I did bring a meat thermometer here, but I used it to check the temperature of the ocean when we were in Malaga, and it didn't recover from that. And just a reminder, the safe internal cooking temperature for chicken is 165 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 74 degrees Celsius. When the chicken is done, I recommend setting it aside to cool for 3 to 5 minutes so that it stays nice and juicy when you cut into it. This recipe is pretty easy to meal prep because kale is really hardy and it doesn't get soggy or super wilted in the fridge even once you've massaged it and added dressing. So I've got the massaged kale here, and then I've got all the remaining ingredients in this other container. All right, let's build our salad. I've got about 1/4 of the kale in the bowl here, and we're gonna add the remaining ingredients. Here we've got the tomatoes, the avocado chunks, the hard-boiled eggs, the chopped up chicken, and the crumbled bacon. And now we drizzle the whole thing with more of that delicious dressing. Look at how beautiful this dish is. If you're making a salad for a meal, you want to make sure that it's got plenty of flavor, textures, protein, fat, fiber, and this salad has it all. Okay, moment of truth. Of course, I know this is going to be amazing. Doesn't it look so good? You're gonna love this. Everyone's gonna love this. Everyone already does love this. I love the tang and sweetness that you get from the dressing. I love the creamy avocado. There's rich, crunchy texture that's coming from the bacon. The chicken is flavorful and moist. The whole thing works really well together. I definitely recommend it. All right, it is lunchtime for me, so I'm gonna enjoy this, but thanks as always for being here. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel and leave a comment below letting me know if you're going to try this salad. This is a slightly more affordable, I think this is Zach's favorite recipe. I think this is Zach's favorite salad, actually. Now it's time to strip the kale. I love showing off my stripping skills. So professional. Please do not serve me a salad with kale that has not been massaged.